evening. Jordan Glass for the Harbor. Second Circuit Court of Appeals in Piscatano versus the Town of Somers laid out the elements of a 1983 action for communications with the municipality's governing bodies during public meetings. It's 396 F sub 2nd 187 for anyone who's interested. Similar to what Mr. Tartaglione sought to present to this council, the Somers Court found that Ms. Piscatano's speech involved a topic of public concern, namely that the acts of an employee of the town were important to the town members. In fact, in the Somers case, the employee was a former employee, and that was still held to be worthy of addressing. The Rye City Council is a designated public forum, which Somers advised exists when a government affords the public an opportunity to address its body at any meeting, required nothing more. What Mr. Tartaglione sought to present as unpleasant or as uncomfortable as it may have been did not qualify as being controllable speech. You do not have the right to do what you did in terms of stifling his ability to present that information as requiring it to be an issue for the council to act upon. When you pursue those lines of reasoning, you're inviting and encouraging an unnecessary lawsuit. The position for Mr. Tartaglione is not content neutral and will not pass the constitutional test. You might also consider what recently happened where a jury found for the plaintiffs against Yonkers for $8 million in a free speech case. Now, in a New York case called People against Griswold, the court reminded us that a content-based law is presumptively invalid under the First Amendment's guarantee of free speech and is subject to strict scrutiny. When a person's First Amendment rights are at stake, it is the government's burden to demonstrate that the interest served justifies the restriction imposed. And that's at 821 NYS 2nd 394. When a government wishes to place a restriction on speech in a public forum, it passes constitutional muster only if the restriction is content-based. Only if the restriction is content-based, that it's necessary to serve a compelling state interest, and it is narrowly tailored to achieve that end. It also has to be common across the board. Or two, a restriction that is content neutral regulates only the time, place, and manner of expression and is narrowly tailored to serve significant government interests and leaves open alternative channels of communications. The Council's new restriction on Mr. Tartaglione is purely content-based, does not pass constitutional muster, but even if you wish to claim it's content neutral, it does not regulate, quote, only the time, place, and manner of expression, and is thus invalid on that approach as well. Now, on a separate matter, Supreme Court Justice, long gone, Benjamin Cardozo, wrote when he was on the New York Court of Appeals, "A trustee is held to something stricter than the morals of the marketplace. Not honesty alone, but the punctilio of an honor, the most sensitive nature, is then the standard of behavior. The level of conduct for fiduciaries has been kept at a level higher than that of a trodden crowd." This is what our officials owe us. When they violate those obligations, they might no longer be fit to serve, but not because of the underlying transgression, but because of the overarching hypocrisy. Service to self while claiming service to others is a blade which cuts far too deeply to be ignored. The Times Union newspaper in Albany published an article. It's worth paraphrasing and quoting some here. Star tax exemption double dippers cost New York taxpayers over $50 million a year. So Governor Cuomo announced a program in which the state would seek audits of homeowners receiving exemptions from two homes. The Star Exemption, as you may know, is available only on one's primary residence. Now, perhaps this is the time of year to remember that you may once have believed in Santa Claus, but you wouldn't like to be accused of flip-flopping for having learned more information and been wise enough to change your views as you learn new facts. But turn this around and ask yourself this question. Would you still support as a position an adult who was so stubborn and so entrenched in their version of the facts that even in the face of facts to the contrary, that no action would make them move or make them change their position? No reconsideration whatsoever. We're talking about unassailable equations, like 1 star exemption plus a 2nd star exemption equals 2 star exemptions, and that equals tax fraud. Now, recently we brought you information about a property that was not in conformance with your code, and now I'm going to tell you this. From reviewing all the records obtained from the county, it appears that that same house, which is not a primary residence, had an improper Star exemption for more than a decade, from the end of 1999 to the middle of 2011, and that it ended only when the tax assessor determined that it was an illegal double dipping. The back taxes remain unpaid. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Glass.
Mayor French, I believe what Mr. Glass was referring to was the Star exemption on your 13 Richard Place home. I believe you've been taking a Star exemption since 1999 to the year 2000, from 1999 to the year 2009. I believe you've also been taking that exemption on your home at 46 Meadow Place. My question to you is, the inappropriate money that you saved on your taxes, do you intend to pay back to the Rye City taxpayers?
If I got an exemption that I wasn't entitled to, absolutely, but I think that would go to New York State, though, if I understand you
Okay.
correctly.
So you're willing to pay it back?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mayor.
So I'll follow up with the assessor's office.
Yeah, the STAR program is administered through our assessor's office, and you know,
That's fine. I just wanted to confirm that he was going to repay the money if it was determined that his Star exemption was received on both properties inappropriately.
If I got an exemption that I wasn't entitled to, absolutely.
Do you know if you got that exemption, sir?
I'm going to find out.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.